Make the impossible possible. We explore leadership legacy and the power of education to transform lives. Today, we are deeply honored to be joined by Dr. Dudley Flood, a living legend in the fight for educational equity, a former teacher, principal, associate state superintendent, and one of North Carolina's foremost champions of school desegregation. Dr. Flood's work reshaped communities and carved pathways for countless students across generations. Through courage, unwavering compassion, and relentless commitment, he taught us that true equity demands not just access, but belonging, not just change, but transformation. In this conversation, Dr. Flood shares wisdom forged over a lifetime of leadership at the intersection of justice and education. Whether you are an aspiring educator, a seasoned policymaker, or a community advocate, prepare to be challenged, inspired, and profoundly moved. Dr. Flood, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's my privilege.
Yes.
My honor.
Yes. And I'm so thankful last week to have been able to join you at the Lifetime Achievement Benefit Celebration. Yes.
I'm still floating from that. Haven't come down to earth yet.
No, don't come down. Don't come down. Don't come down. You know, our former president, Joe Biden, saw it fit to honor you with that Lifetime Achievement Award. And yes, we're so grateful to be there to celebrate with you.
Oh, I was so highly honored.
Yes, yes. Well, are you ready to dive in? Because I have some questions for you today.
Oh, of course.
Okay. So let's talk about our vision of equity and leadership. You've emphasized the importance of creating belonging rather than just removing barriers. How can today's educational leaders move from compliance to genuine inclusion?
The idea of belonging grows out of the fact that students, as well as all of us, need to have an ownership of wherever it is they go to school. Mm. When you're able to hear them say, this is my school, as opposed to this is the school, and goodness, not their school, it makes a distinct difference in how they view what they're there to do. They need to understand very early what is prized at a school. Once they've learned what is prized here, and we demonstrate that, we don't teach it, we demonstrate what is rewarded here, then they have a pathway to becoming a part of that school, because they can then begin to join in ways that the school recognizes and the community recognizes as being a valuable contribution. Just one simple example, we found, for example, things that we may not notice as adults, dreadfully important to schools when young people are coming together. A simple thing is the cheerleaders. A simple thing is whether you're on the choir. Athletics are overrated. I mean, not all of us are going to play football. Not all of us going, but all of us have some talent. Yeah. And we'd like to have an opportunity to employ that talent where we are and to have it acknowledged and recognized. Now, just to give you an example, 4 years ago, maybe, I went 2 nights in a row. One night I went to some place where they had just won the 4A football championship. Mm. And I arrived at the celebration site. I had to go to the 3rd floor in the parking deck to find somewhere to park my car, and people were just coming, flowing in, 1,500, 2,000. A few nights later, I went to a place where they recognized students who had a straight A average for the year. I arrived at the lunchroom. Yeah. and one lady said to me, I hope you're not disappointed. Crowd will be small. They're having something else, and we have a conflict. And I said, well, yeah, I will be disappointed. Not for me.
Right.
Because it's well known that Where two or more will gather, Dudley Flood will speak. That's on my business card.
That sounds good.
It has nothing to do with my disappointment. For me, it is disappointing that you have demonstrated the value which you place on the reason they're here.
Yes.
Now, if you don't demonstrate a value for what they're doing, they have a difficult time maintaining that. Now, when our kids are brought together and a school has a set of values that are clear to them, that we emphasize this, and you have no opportunity to access that, whatever it is, and you will know whether you should or not. Nobody has to tell you shouldn't. I knew when I was in high school at 155 pounds, I wasn't going to play fullback on football.
No.
Nobody had to tell me that. But I also knew that I had a reasonable amount of comprehension, and I didn't know why I might not be able to be in Silent Crown and Scepter Club, which was a demonstration of your capability.
Right.
When I saw that kind of thing in school, I knew that we didn't have access that for all of the students that might have been made available. So we had to work and find out how is it that we equip each of our activities that are important to allow there to be a possibility that any student who gravitates toward that naturally,
right,
and has the will and the comprehension to be a part of it, that we ensure that they're represented there. So once they begin to do that, they get away from that school, my school.
Yes.
They get away from that team to my team.
That's right. Ownership.
Yes, and then we moved away from desegregation toward integration.
Yes.
Desegregation is a legal thing. We can do that fairly pronouncedly. But integration is a social concept. And while you might be legally desegregated, doesn't infer it for 1 minute to me that you're integrated. Yeah. Because the socialization hasn't taken place. It causes every student there to believe he or she is an opportunity, not a right necessarily, an opportunity to involve itself in any way that anyone else can, and whatever those things are that we value.
Yes, that is so critical. When the adults model what the belonging should be, the children will want to be there.
Absolutely.
Right? Because we're building that sense of belonging within each and every one. This is ours, right? We take ownership. Right. We take pride. This is ours.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, also, speaking along those lines, I want to move into some of your personal experiences. You faced deeply entrenched opposition to racial integration. In today's world of polarized debates, what advice would you give to leaders who are striving to make courageous but unpopular decisions for the sake of equity?
First advice I would give them is to be certain when you are involving yourself with people who may not have the same proclivity toward what you're trying to get done. Use terms that are compatible to them. Opportunity is very difficult for anybody to argue against. And when you use the word opportunity, not many people can say, I don't think people are having opportunity. They may feel that way, but they're not going to say it. But when you use the word, we've been deprived of rights, that's a stimulus for further discussion. We are lacking opportunity, or we're failing to have opportunity. It's a little better definition. And then I try to stay clear of code words. We have these code words. Sometimes we're aware of them, sometimes not. But we'll be brought into discussions around these code words. And force busting, when I was working in the desegregation, North Carolina, I heard that more often than I heard anything else. And if I fuse that, I had to help people understand we don't force anyone to get on a bus. We have a law in North Carolina that says if you assign a student more than 1.5 miles from his or her school, you provide transportation. It didn't say force them, it says provide.
That's correct.
And actually, I can find you more schools where there's a line of cars 2 blocks long every morning, and no buses involved.
That's right.
But and I'll get personal from time to time and say, I lived just short of a mile and a half from school. And I envied those people who had a bus ride. They're waving out the bus window at me and I'm walking because I don't qualify to ride buses. And we thought bus was good at that time. And all of a sudden, when we asked people to use that train or made it available, we didn't require it. So what you do is you dismantle the code word. You dismantle it. When I hear people talk about reparations, for an example,
okay,
reparations is a code word. There isn't any way in the world that we can repay people for whatever their parents went through. We can't do that. But what we can do is we can. I ask 3 questions: what? So what? Now what? Always ask those 3 questions when addressing any issue. Now, what is the fact that there were people who were disenfranchised? No, you didn't do it, but there were people who were disenfranchised. Now, the so what? As a result of that, we have things called the achievement gap. We have things called all these things. Now, in as much as that is the case, now what? What are we going to do about that? Are there processes in which we can engage to remedy that, to lessen that gap, to do whatever it is that we removed impact of what might have preceded you and me? And then I would stress the fact that it's critical that we know our history. And again, I have no objection, as you know, to using personal examples all the time. I'm at a loss for knowing my history. My father was born in 1890. He had a 5th grade education. He was the son of a Native American woman and a white man. What history do you think I have? I have 1 generation of history. I knew him.
Right.
That's all. And that I didn't meet my grandmother, but for her history, I don't know. Now I'm disenfranchised. I don't think somebody did that to me. The fact is, I don't know my history. And because I don't know my history, I've had to create one. I spent all these years creating a history to be sure that nobody else in my family will ever walk around saying, I don't know my history. They're going to say, yeah, but with my uncle Dudley.
That's right.
So I'm going to give them a history. Now, if you have that history, your chin goes up right away.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Can't help it. And it may have been that my grandfather was a horse thief. I don't know. But if I knew that, it would still be, there's a better way than that. Right. So it wouldn't be an indictment for me to know that he was a horse thief. It would be, I can do better than that. And he had to do something other than just steal horses. So what else did he do? What did he create? What did he leave?
Yes.
It turns out my father, who I mentioned, was an economic genius. There were 9 children. I'm 8th in the 9. I never missed a meal. I never missed a day in school. I never went barefoot, except during the summer we used to play barefoot. And I didn't like it. He was an economic genius. I've been in school some part every year since I was 5 years old. I could not do that. I could not feed all the money I make, and I pay more taxes than he made money. He was an economic genius. He knew how to do these things.
Yes.
So what I want people to understand about knowing your history is it's helpful to me to pattern after the things about my history that were useful and functional and applicable to today. And then I have to recognize that there are generations like myself who I'm the most equipped person to live in a culture that no longer exists that you will ever see. I've got to learn how to live in this culture. Right. So if there isn't some transition, where do I get that from? The trouble I've had just getting on this line. Yeah. My nephew owns a technology company. He set the computer up and ran.
That's it.
So if we don't have that transitional value through our history, then we have complications that we need not have. So when I talk about our culture, I use the universal R because if you dig deeply enough, there's a mutual culture. All of us are a part of it.
That's right.
And then I talk about what are the elements that have caused that culture to be very successful for some, less
And not
successful
so
for others.
successful for others.
And then I ask, now what? What can we do about that? And I like to invite conversation. I like to invite people to respond. I may already have in my mind now what. In fact, I generally do.
Right.
But I don't want to force that on you. I want to drag that out of you. And if I'm the adjudicator, of course, if there's more after you've told me what you think the now what is this, what if we were to? So my next thing that always happened in any conversation around what may happen if we knew, what will surely happen if we don't. I can't guarantee you anything, but what may happen if we do? If we were to do this differently, if we were to inject this or that or provide that, what might happen? And I want you to answer that for me. And almost always they say, well, maybe if that were to take place, well, what will happen if we don't?
Right.
We'll still get what we're getting. If we do nothing, we'll get exactly
what you always get.
Yeah. So if we're able to lead people into open-minded discussions, take them off the defense, that's the first thing you have to do. So I'll let you know right away. You know, I'm not your enemy. I'm not here as your enemy. I'm here to offer anything that I can that would make what you're trying to do more feasible for all that you're trying to do it for. And please, if there's any instance in which I say something that you find to be confusing, ask me to embellish it. Allow me to embellish it. Don't assume what I meant. Ask me to embellish it. And let's keep this conversation flowing on a lateral basis.
Yes.
I'm not going to talk down to you, and I don't want you to talk up to me. Let's keep this lateral all the way. And it applies even if you're working with a hostile group. I've, by the way, spoken to the Ku Klux Klan, and that busing issue that I told you about.
Yes.
That was one of the conversations that they had invited the state superintendent. They had not invited me. But stuff like that didn't stop on his desk, as you might know. Straight to my desk. I didn't even think his secretary told him the Ku Klux Klan on him. That's
all right. Your voice was still there.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I would have gone even so because that was part of my role. But the fact is, I thought I would fare better in explaining than the inside story of that, because I had nothing to gain or lose from it. You know, I'm not running for office. That's very helpful. It's very helpful if you have the neutrality of, I don't have any political gain here. You know,
nothing to lose, nothing to gain.
You've asked me to do something, and I'm trying my best to do it for you.
Right.
And I'm not your enemy. And you're not required to take this information. I'm giving it to you, and you may make whatever disposition that you like. So they're not burning the cross while I was there. So I assume that it fell on some pretty good ears. Yeah. But there's so many opportunities that we have, but we have to accept that you stay out of a fight. Don't get in a fight. If you get in a fight, you expect some punches. I don't want any punches.
No.
So I don't pick fights. Even Muhammad Ali found it. In a fight, he was swift on the foot, but you're going to get some punches.
Someone's going to land.
And if you get enough punches, you might be knocked out. I don't want to do that. I want to persevere. I want to last through this thing. So in our role, I wanted to ensure that you thought I was, and I was sincere, but I'm here to be helpful. Yeah. I'm here to be a conduit. Our title, if we had used our professional title, would have been technical assistant specialist. That word never came out of my mouth. I'm a country boy who's a country teacher, and I'm here.
That's all right. That's all right.
I've been asked by your superintendent to come and see if I can help you work through this thing.
Yeah. And, you know, we build bridges.
Yeah.
And we cross over them together.
Amen.
That's all we can do, right? and you know, as you were sharing the stories, I began to think about how important it is when we come to the table, because you talked about leaving the defenses aside. It's so critical to come seeking first to understand, not being so quick to want to be understood, but seek first to understand, right? And when we think about the role that leaders are playing right now in districts, at state departments across our nation, when we think about how hard it is for some to really make those unpopular decisions, we have to always keep at the forefront why we're making them. I think we forget why we're making those decisions. Who is it really about? It's not about us and needing to get voted back in or whatever the situation is. It's about the babies. It's about the children. It's about helping them to understand what is it going to take for them to belong where they are so that they can thrive where they are and where they go to next.
I spent an inordinate amount of time helping people to understand the eleemosynary nature of public school.
Yeah.
Now, private school is private. It's what it says. I went to Duke University. I paid them a lot of money, but I paid it. You didn't pay anything. You didn't go to Duke. So that's private. I went there for me.
Right.
But I went to public school for you. I went to public school for North Carolina so that I could serve it. And I hope it's gotten its money back. But what I tried to do is to help people understand two things about public education.
Mm-hmm.
All the schools belong to all the people. That's the beginning point. All the schools belong to all the people. I have no children, have had no children. But if you were to say right now we need another nickel for school, I'll be the first one in out of my pocket because I want all of the children to be educated.
Right. All the babies.
Yeah, and it's not just nobility on my part. I want the kid next door to be educated. I want him to be highly educated. And certainly I want him to grow up and get a job where he pays into the Social Security on which I'm living right now.
Amen.
I want a nuclear physicist to be paying into my Social Security. Right. And I like pedestrian people, but I want a nuclear physicist. I want an astronaut to be paying into my Social Security. So I try to help them to understand that the eleemosynary nature of school is it's all for all the good of us. Mm-hmm. And when you start talking about doing away with the school or a lesson in the school, I asked a specific question. You want to do it in the fire department? Mm-hmm. I never had a fire, but I don't want you to move the fire department. I want it to be there because it serves the people, the person next to me. If his house catches on fire, mine's going to catch on fire.
That's right.
So you want to do it with the police department? You don't. I've never been apprehended, but if I need the police, first thing I do is call them. Well, the school is not just there for me. It's there for the society. It's there because we need well-educated people. And all of us come through that. Mm-hmm. All of us come through that. Your astronaut came through that.
That's right.
He started kindergarten, first grade, somewhere, and got that foundation. So when you can help people to see that all the schools are there, not just. Now, I don't fight private schools. I don't pick a fight with them. Like I said, I'm not interested in that. If that's where you decide, you go. But I will, if you ask my opinion of them, I would tell you to be sure that you have a broad enough base of people who are in there so that your child is acclimated to what he or she will one day face.
That's correct.
They're going to get out of there when they're 18 years old. And this world will be sitting right here waiting for you. And it'll be just as diverse as it was before you ducked it.
Yeah.
And so you need to understand the preparation and grounding and all the rest for interaction. Mm-hmm. And on a social level, I point out to them that out of all the people, when I worked for the Department of Education, out of all the people that I ever hired, all of them were qualified. Mm-hmm. But the people we hired were those who fit into the climate that we were trying to create in the organization.
Yes.
If they didn't have the adaptation skills, they could not adjust to the environment. If they could not work with the rest of the people there and the rest of the people we had to serve, they could have an IQ of 190. It wouldn't be helpful to me.
No.
Because I got to have you to be able to talk to the most pedestrian person in the world.
Right.
He or she has children, and you have to let them understand the value of it. Sometimes they more than anybody need to know the value of education, even before the child knows it. So that universal learning that you get in school. And then the final thing, and I often have tried to say this to people who are making the laws about funding education and all the rest. Those people pay taxes who make money.
Yes.
And those who don't make money, taxes pay them. Now, if you want to continue to foster a society that can be self-sufficient and pay its taxes so that you can appropriate money where you want to, and we'll keep needing you to do that, you got to get all the people well educated.
Yes.
Not all of them have to be teachers, certainly, but I've learned some things from people who are on a very, very pedestrian level that were useful, and I was able to pass that on to somebody who needed it.
Yes.
So we can't afford to have uneducated people in this society. We can't.
It's too expensive.
It is too expensive. It's exactly right. It's too expensive, and it threatens the democratic concept because democracy rests its basis on the person's being able to be, quote, self-governed.
Yeah.
And if you're not capable of being self-governed, if you don't know whether you're being self-governed, if you have no input, if you have the capacity and not the opportunity to have input, you don't really have the kind of democracy that our forefathers pictured. So there's so many ancillary reasons that we need to educate. We don't need to like them. We don't need to like them. We need to love them.
Need to love them.
I love a lot of people that I don't really like. I bet you do too.
There's a distinction.
Yeah, there's a distinction. I don't know the behavior. That's one thing.
Right?
But wishing them well. Yeah. I don't know anybody I hate. I've never, to my knowledge, hated anybody. I have a right to adjudicate your behavior as it relates to me, but that isn't through hatred. I don't have to down you. I don't have to deprive you of anything. I just have to be able to communicate laterally with you. That's not working for me.
But that's the wheat and tears concept.
Well, it is the way this society looks at it. But when I was principal of school, every student, of course, I had a small school. I had 1,600 kids.
Okay.
That was small. That wasn't so small in the day when I was back in the 60s.
No.
But every child in there thought that he was my favorite child. I guarantee you, every child. No, he or she was my favorite child. Yeah. And rather than, in 3 years that I was in that high school, I sent home two children. One of them, I went home and brought him back because I don't reward bad behavior. You're sending them home. When I came to that school, they had a rule that said if you catch a kid smoking, now this is in the 60s,
Okay.
Catch a kid smoking, you got to send him home for 2 days. And if he does it again, 3 days. And I said, my goodness, one pack of cigarettes, he can miss the whole first semester. I said, so.
Yes.
One of my teachers, and I caught him smoking. I said, son, did you know the penalty? Oh, yes. He's smiling. I have to go home for 2 days. I said, Dudley, you're not doing anything but putting the rabbit in the briar patch. And I thought about that. About 30 minutes later, I got in my car and I rode out to his house. And what do you think he was doing? He's sitting on his porch smoking.
That's right.
I said, Dudley Flood, he'll be a better smoker when he comes back to school than he will when you send him home. So we're not going to deprive somebody of their education over misbehavior. So I brought him back and he said, I don't have to stay home, no, but I do need to see you after school.
That's right.
Because I can't leave school until I get my work done after that.
Exactly.
So he says, what am I going to say? Yeah, I said, I don't know. Why don't you just drop by my office after school? And he came by that day and I said, what were your assignments for the day? I don't have any. You don't have any? What are your classes? What are you taking? Because I need to give you some assignments. Instead of me having him out raking the yard, I put that rascal to work. And when he left, he said, am I all right today? Yeah, you're all right today, but I'll see you tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
That's right.
What?
Yes.
We're going to do this for a couple of weeks. And it may remind you that this beats smoking on the school ground. But the resolve of that wasn't just that punitive. The resolve of that was he learned that there are consequences for poor behavior.
That's right.
And then I offered him rationale for why we had that rule. I didn't create that rule.
Right.
But I said, we have 7 buildings on this campus. 5 of them are wooden buildings. One match would put us out of business if you
It sure would.
So I don't need you and anybody else to burn these buildings. We need these buildings. Mm-hmm. And so I won't hold your time to tell you what the result of that was, but they created a smoking station.
Oh, did they?
Oh,
okay.
This is in 1968. Nobody that I know had a smoking.
And no buildings burnt down.
No buildings burnt down.
Okay.
They made their own smoking station. So.
Well, we fixed the problem. And it's the same thing today. We just want to figure out, how do we keep the kids in school? Keep them in the seat. We can't keep sending them home for foolishness. You have to keep them in the seat. You find ways. And it goes right back to belonging.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They always refer to, this is your school.
This
is your school. This is your playground. That's your gym over there. You want to get in it.
Ownership.
Yeah.
That ownership.
Your school.
Let me answer you a question, though, about our leaders. When we think about that concept of belonging, ownership, and I'm going to read this into your hearing. Mm-hmm. State and district education leaders across this nation are pulled in many directions. In some very real instances, purpose moves from transparent to opaque. The work that we do daily requires us to remain hyper-focused on improving overall outcomes for our children. What charge do you have for current education leaders concerning purpose?
If you expect to have good rewards, you have to do at least 2 things. Number 1 is you have to have a definition of what it is. What will this look like when I shall have done it?
Yes.
If you're able to find what this outcome is, then you can talk about what the applicable strategy for reaching that outcome is, and you can always refer back to that strategy. Mm-hmm. So if I can answer why I'm doing this, it's very difficult for you to tell me stop doing it. If I can answer why, and the result is what you were looking for in the first place, is what you told me you wanted. Now, what we've not done is we've not clarified what does an educated child look like?
Okay, come on.
Yeah, what does it look like?
Yes.
So in talking to any board of education, I give them what I think an educated child looks like, and I give them what I think an educated school looks like. And among those things, I include diversity. Whatever term I need to use, I include that. It must include diversity, and I give them reasons why it was. But I also give them the educational factors that an education school must be a community of learners. Mm-hmm. A community of learners is not just you sit over there and I sit over here. In a community of learners, any of the schools that have national prominence, the first thing that you know about them is that they have a community of learners. Everybody learns more. And I will confess to you, in graduate school, not in elementary school now, I learned more from the rest of the people in the room than I did from any teacher that I had, because that was a community of learners concept. We talked among ourselves, we studied among ourselves. And so we have to help people who are non-educators understand the value of having an atmosphere in which everybody there views himself or herself as a learner.
Right.
And when I work with educators, I said, don't ever give a person the impression that you don't see in him the potential to be that learner. Because if one thing I'm absolutely certain of, children are not necessarily what you think they are. They're not what they think they are, but they tend to become what they think you think they are. They tend to become what they think you think they are. When I was an athletic coach, I coached kids that had any business in the world out there on the football field. But as soon as I got them to believe that they were football players, next thing you know, that's what they were. Well, when I taught math, it was the same thing. I would have kids that come in my room scared to death of math. And I say, are you kidding me? Math is the easiest subject here. Yeah. I said, math is the only subject of which you can learn all there is. You know what? You can't learn all the English. They're making up new English while you and I are having this conversation. You can't learn all this. You can learn all the math, son. 2 times 2 will be 4 as long as you live.
Right. That's going to change.
So don't frighten yourself about math. And then I would put them through this one little test. I used to have an old plank. You know, this was seesaw, as we called it.
Yes.
And I said, bring me that wooden plank. It's about 12 feet long. I said, put that plank on the floor. How many of you can get on this board and walk from one end to the other and not fall off? Mm-hmm. Oh, anybody? I didn't ask you about anybody. Show me. Every one of them would get on that board. And I said, oh, that is great. Now take that board and put it between these two desks for me.
Okay.
I want you to, how many want to get up? They said, oh, I said, you just did it. But put it between two desks. And everyone who tried did so. Nobody fell off. I said, let's take it over to the vocab shop. I want to put it on the painting scaffold.
Oh, my.
8 feet up. And they said to me, are you kidding? I said, no, I'm not kidding. I said, what has changed? It's still the same board, isn't it? So what has changed? What has changed is when it was on the floor, you were focusing on what? Staying on the board.
Right.
Now it's up here, you're focusing on what? Falling off the board. Mm-hmm. Whatever you focus on is what you're going to be successful at.
It's the same board.
If you're going to focus on flunking, why wouldn't you? Right. Don't focus on flunking in my room. Focus on succeeding. Yeah. My job is to ensure that you meet what your focus is. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to prepare them to understand that. And if our leaders today understand this, I don't care if I'm a superintendent, I don't care if I'm a teacher. If I can demonstrate to you that the results that you're looking for are through the methodology that I'm using, you will endorse that methodology. If you're smart, you're going to write a book about it. I can't tell you how many folks wrote books about stuff that were mine.
Right.
I was busy doing it. I didn't have time. So for the leaders of today, in the first place, ensure that what you're doing is the right thing. Yeah. You have guidelines. You have, I call them fences. I got to know the law. I'm not going to transgress the law. I've got to know what is educationally sound. I'm not going to transgress what is educationally sound. I have to understand whether the limits of my capability. But then more, I've got to understand the compatibility it has to have. It has to be compatible to whoever's making the final decision of whether I can or cannot do that. Mm-hmm. So I have to spend some time finding out after I've done the first three, how to ensure that this is compatible to you. And that's why I started by saying, I take away the buzzwords, take away you don't hear me talk about critical race theory. Mm-hmm. I was doing this before anybody ever used the term critical race theory. Yeah. So am I going to stop doing what I did 50 years ago because I'm able to understand what critical race theory refers to? Mm-hmm. I have neighbors who don't understand and not going to, so why would I spend my time? I'm going to do what I know works for children. I'm going to do what works. Now, if I was superintendent, the Board of Education has one question they're going to ask me: why did you do that? Why are you doing that? Why are you endorsing that? Why are you asking us to pass this regulation? Mm-hmm. And if I'm able to give them evidence that we would be better off as a school system because I passed it, don't get into the phraseology that would be upraising somebody that's going to be. I had a call this very morning from somebody who had one person in the community that cost them. And I said that they'll cost the whole board. Well, no, just me. I said, don't make that personal. It isn't about you. It's about the position you hold. Don't you respond to that. Go to the whole board. See who else has got that same concern. Don't put yourself out of them. I want to know. If you open your mouth, you're speaking for the board.
That's right. That's wisdom.
So don't speak for the board. Right. Well, the same is true. We need to huddle up as educators. Our principals need to talk to each other. Our superintendents need to talk to each other. Our teachers need to talk among themselves. And we need to talk about how is it that when we face this particular challenge, what are the things that have worked well for you? What are the things that have worked well? What are the things you've stumbled into and found don't do that again? And then we wouldn't be fearful. But the final thing is, if it's right, I found if it's right, I can get forgiven a whole lot easier than I can get permission.
Sure can.
But it has to be right. If it's not right, I don't expect to get forgiven for doing wrong. Mm-mm. So if I can demonstrate to you I did the right thing about the child, and the only person in North Carolina, I'm sure it's true everywhere else, but the only person who has a legal right to be at school is children. Nobody else has a right to be there. I'm there by privilege. I don't have a right to be principal of a school. I don't have the right to teach. The children have the right to the privilege of education is in our Constitution.
That's correct.
And it's the duty of the state to guard and maintain that right. So if I had to remind you of that, I'm doing everything I can to guard and maintain the right of this child. Math problem, solve issues, even if it's a matter of how to deport himself or herself in a public place. How not put your feet on the back of the bus when you're riding and then somebody else will see. Oh, that's education. It's not as simple as math. It's not as simple. So I would urge all our leaders to begin with the justification in their head. Why are we doing this? Why is it better than? So anytime you interchange, you want to what is different and better, and let as many people as you can know what we're doing is different, but it's better.
Yes.
It's better for the child.
Yes.
And
it's
let them
right.
know if we ever learn that it isn't better, we're going to terminate it. We won't do it. We're not out here to hurt children. If we find out that's not good for kids, you can be assured we'll move away from it.
We're going to pivot. We're going to do what's right.
Yeah.
Okay. This has been amazing. I have one more question. I mean, I had so many that I wanted to ask.
Yeah,
but you shared so much. No. This is our time. I'm okay. It's fine. Folks are going to listen to the whole thing no matter what. So we're going to take our time. But the thing that I wanted to know here is, I was thinking about our next generation of leaders, right? The ones who are in school and might not know that they're going to be leaders yet, or they have that trajectory and they're going to become those leaders. They're stepping into the work. They're going to be facing challenges. What final message would you want to leave with the next generation of educational leaders?
If you're going to do anything worthwhile, be sure that people who need the credit for it get it. Be sure they get it. You don't need it. Your legacy will be what people say about you when you're not in the room. You don't need that right now. When you're my age, you get more of that than you got in the business with. You're not going to get it while you're doing it. Be patient and do the right thing all the time, but ensure that those people who need that, for example, your Board of Education needs that. Your county commissioners need that. And as often as you can, and when I worked for DPI, the governor needed that. You might have heard of the governor's reading program. Do you think the governor needed a reading program? Well, the governor wasn't in the room when that's the governor's reading program, because I can't find the reading program. So it's got to be the governor. So ensure that you don't ride that horse too high. You be sure that you surround yourself with people who need what you're doing and ensure that they get a fair amount of credit for it. But more significantly than that, ensure before you go into something that you have a foundation for whatever that is you're going to do. Mm-hmm. And you have access to the knowledge of, have somebody around you who tell you when you're getting ready to do something untoward. We are too quick to equip ourselves with our friends, our cousins. Get somebody in your immediate circle that is saying to you, look you right in the face. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Make it plain.
And really, we can split a bill after that, but I need somebody on my staff who would say, what are you thinking about? And then I can embellish it further, and I can know what to do when I meet that person who one day somebody's going to say that. And then the other thing is surround yourself as best you can in a social way with people who prize what you have decided to do with your life. Don't surround yourself with people who don't understand why you're doing what you're doing, have no value of it, don't see why. Can't tell you how many times I ask people, why would you be an educator? You're capable of being, hold on a minute. I'm capable of being an educator. I'm still working to do that. Yeah. So don't give me anything else to do. Whatever it is they're doing and they prize it, that's what if they think you got a modicum of common sense, you ought to be a lawyer. I didn't want to be a lawyer, to be an educator. That's what I want to be. Educate lawyers. No, I hadn't ought to be a medical doctor. My best friend is a medical doctor. I went to breakfast with him this morning.
That's right.
He needs to be a doctor. I need to be an educator.
That's right. Create more doctors.
He's asked me more questions than I've asked him because he knows I can't practice medicine. But he's got 3 children. He called me real old. So declare yourself to yourself. Don't boast about it. Declare yourself to yourself. Be professional at what you're doing. And walk in the room like you're stepping on a yacht all the time. Yeah. Just look like it. Look like, not braggadocio. Look like I belong here. I'm never going to slump into anybody's room. I'm going to walk in there like this is my room. I'm never going to walk up to anybody's podium. Oh, God, I got to make it. This is my podium. If you have one chance to make a first impression. One chance. If you make the right first impression, it takes a lot of strength for anybody to unravel that.
Yeah. So
please don't assume it to be conceit. It is that you ought to earn the right in yourself because you're so sure of what you're doing, because you've done the research, you've done the background, you've done the what if, you've done all that in your head before you get there. And the last example I give you, when I used to be a basketball referee. Okay. Before I'd go to the gym, I put my striped shirt on, put my whistle in my mouth. I look in the mirror. I said, "Boy, you dumb, you crazy." Well, when I get in the gym, the guy said, Hey, I've heard that before.
Right.
So let me call this. Well, I psychologically do that as an educator. I psychologically unmask myself and see, what do I see? Then when you unmask me, you're going to see. Because I've thrown away all that other stuff. What you're going to see is you're going to see an educator. You're going to see an educator who's confident, not arrogant, but confident in what he or she is doing. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see that I didn't just make this up. I have reasons for doing what I'm doing. And if you've got the time, I've embellished this for you. But this is not just happenstance. This is something I've spent all my life trying to figure out the best way to do it. And if you're able to get an audience, whomever that audience is, if it's the county commissioners, if it's the Board of Education, it's, in my case, sometimes it was the General Assembly. Once you ensure that they know that you're just not flying by the seat of your pants, start to listen. They start to listen. So don't excuse yourself from having the posture of a professional. You don't ever excuse yourself from having that. Feel like you're a professional. You're good at what you do. And you're getting better every time you do it because it's called experience. Mm-hmm. So be open to scrutiny. Yes. And I'm moved to criticism, but I don't make my decisions based on that. I critique your criticism. If it's a valid one, then I know there's something I got to do about this. Mm-hmm. If it's not valid, I thank you. And my response is, I hear what you're saying.
With a smile.
Yeah.
With a smile. Oh gosh. Dr. Flood, you have shared some nuggets, so many. And I do want to say, I don't want to keep you here too long.
It's your time.
I don't, but here's the thing, like there was a nugget you shared that really almost brought me to tears. I should say I almost teared up. I want to not mess up everything here. And I don't have my Kleenex next to me. But the advice that you give regarding the next generation of leaders, it's not just for them, it's for current leaders. And when I think about our leaders, the first thing you said was be sure to give credit. And surround yourself with people who you're willing to receive the feedback from, who are not afraid to say to you, no, ditch that, do this instead, or reconsider, or have you considered? And as that leader, you're willing to listen. I've found that there are leaders who fail to do that. Right. And even though it might not come back to bite them immediately it comes back. It's a seed that's sown. So we want to be careful about that. And it's so important. Surround yourself with people smarter than yourself.
Mm-hmm. And let them be smart.
Let them do the work.
Them down.
Let them do it. They're willing. Let them work in the areas of their expertise, the areas of their greatest skill. All it does is enhance the collective.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's all it does. And so I just want to say thank you for sharing that and humility. Be humble, right? Be humble. Yes. I don't want to have to eat humble pie. Let me be humble first, you know? Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to close this out here. And first, I want to say thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for allowing me to be.
Oh my gosh. I wish I could have you on every time. This was so good. But here in closing, I just want to share with our audience, Dr. Dudley Flood reminds us that educational leadership is not simply about managing systems. It is about healing communities, breaking barriers, and believing in the boundless potential of every child. His life's work is a testament to the power of vision, resilience, and the unshakable belief that we are better and stronger together. As we move forward, let us carry Dr. Flood's example in our work. Lead with courage, fight for equity without compromise, and create educational organizations where every student is not just included, but relentlessly fought for and celebrated. Dr. Flood has shared the greatest motivator is possibility. We are not there yet, but we will only get there if we keep the faith and believe there is a destination. I echo this sentiment. I encourage you to keep the faith, believe, and live. Live knowing there is a destination. And thank you for joining us today.